Hey guys, it's Tiffany. Welcome back. It's been a little bit since I've posted anything, but today I'm going to post best and worst reads of 2019, books that I wish I had read but I haven't gotten a chance to, and there goes my cat. And a few honorable mentions. I don't know if I'm going to have a picture for all of the books or all of the books on hand, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that we get a photo in there. And I'm also going to just, add a few extra things to it too. But anyway, first of all, I'm going to kind of go back and forth between best and worst. Now, keep in mind, this is just my opinion. Don't hate me. We all are entitled. We all have different tastes in books. There may be something you loved that I didn't, or something I didn't love and you did. No harm, no foul. Anyway, to start, I have to say that probably my close to absolute favorite book of the year 2019 was Verity by Colleen Hoover. It's a psychological thriller. It's completely different from almost anything she's ever written. And I gave it 5 stars because it was just, it seriously. There's a trigger warning though, so if you plan on reading this, just make sure that you kind of read some of the reviews so you kind of understand that there might be a trigger. But I was speechless. It was shocking. It was disturbing. It was uncanny. It's definitely one of the absolute best books I've ever read in my life. Yeah, very scary. Just saying. Okay. And a book that I read that was really hyped, but I didn't personally like it, but it was hyped up, was let me rephrase that. I didn't hate the book. It just took me so long to get into it and understand the format that by the time I got there, I was just kind of over it. I read half the book and then I put it down, read 2 books, came back to it, and then I finished it up. That being said, I do want to read the second book because I really did like it in the end, but it was one book that was super hyped up that I didn't feel the same way. And that is Illuminae Files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Like I said, it wasn't that I didn't like the ending, but it was so hard to follow and get into. But the ending was really strong. So I am going to go ahead and read the next. I'm going to read Gemini. Because I think I will do better with it because I kind of understand the format now. Okay, and another book that was so good. It was probably, I think it was one of my first reads of 2019. Yeah, it was my 5th book. Was A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. Yeah, this is so good. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. What I totally loved about it was that it brought the past and the present together. So, the female lead is living in the modern world, and the beast, as you would say, is living in the fairy tale world. And it kind of takes a little bit of the present day world and a little bit of the fairy tale world and mushes them together. And it is really good. Another book that I read that I gave 3 stars. It wasn't that I didn't like the book. Because that actually wasn't terrible, but it wasn't. There was no character development. I did like the theme. It was dark. It was kind of I don't know. It wasn't. because of the lack of character development, it was really hard for me to like the book. And that was What the Woods Keep by Kata D. Beckera. So I don't know. I mean, I might read it again, honestly. I mean, I can't say I'll never read it again, but I might read it again. But as of right now, I have no plans in reading it again. And I don't know. All right, so the next book that I gave a 5-star to was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And honestly, I mean, I really hope that they make this into a movie because it was so good. It was one of the first books, again, that I read of the year. And it's a psychological thriller as well. And it's an adult book, just like Verity was. And it is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I liked how the writer manipulated the reader into not realizing. I don't want to give it away if you haven't read it, but the writer manipulated the readers, and then so by the time you get to the ending, you're like, whoa, like what happened? What just happened? I didn't catch any of this while I was reading it, but as you think back, you start thinking like, okay, yeah, now I kind of get like some of the clues. Yeah. Okay, and so then another book that I read that people like was really hyped, it's not a horrible book. I didn't care for it as well as I really wanted to because it sounded so good. And that was Sadie by Courtney Summers. I think that I liked the storyline because I didn't feel that the storyline was bad. It's just that the book, it didn't capture and hold my attention. And so he says, "What are you doing in there, girl?" And so I had to, I don't know, it wasn't my style. But I've heard people say that if you read it on a audio, or if you listen to it on audiobook, that, you know, they really liked it because it has, because you can hear the, because it has like a podcast and then it tells you about the real world. Then it has a podcast and then it tells you what's going on. So I honestly think that if I'd read it in audiobook or listened to an audiobook, I might have liked it better. All right, and so then the next book that I read that I really enjoyed, and it's actually a series that I started for 2013 maybe, 14, and I just never finished it. But I really liked this one. It was a 5-star read for me, and it was Beautiful Burn by Jamie Maguire. It's part of her Beautiful series. This is one of the brothers. They're firefighters. There's a lot of back and forth angst. What I really liked about the book was that it addressed substance abuse, and one of the female character was very much in addiction, and she was struggling with that, and then the male lead was extremely supportive and just really wanted to help her and be on her side. And I liked that because I don't read a lot of books like that. I tend to gravitate toward YA. I mean, it doesn't sound like it, does it? Because I read quite a bit more adult books this year than I have in the past. But anyway, so Beautiful Burn was another 5-star read for me. And then another book that was just blah. It was just something that was so hyped up, and I honestly, absolutely just did not like it. And I think it was because it was actually hard to follow. And it was Spectacle by Jody Lynn Dorrock. And it didn't, I put it down and I came back to it. The premise was nice, but it didn't draw me in. So the beginning, Recess, get out of there. Get out of there. So the beginning was really good, but the ending, it had way too much going on. And there was not, like, after you read a book and you find out there's like a twist, usually you can kind of be like, oh crap, okay, there was foreshadowing here. Or, oh, there was a clue here. But in this book, there was none of that. So when they started, talking about the ending and kind of like who is the murderer and why they were, going after this, female character in Paris, you're like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. And I didn't get it enough that I wanted to reread it to figure it out. So I stopped. Okay, so the rest of my books are all 5-star reads. Actually, I didn't have a lot of like disappointing books or a lot of books that weren't, I had a few other 3-star reads, but they were still good books, and I would likely reread them because I did like the book. But I was reading so fast, and I think I missed out on some of my 3-star reads. I want to go back and just kind of, reread them and just slow down, which is what I plan to do this year because I will finally be graduating in March from school. Thank goodness. Okay, so another book that was a 5-star for me was Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. And this is the first book I've ever read by her. And I gave it a 5-star because the imagination was so good. I read it in one day, well, in like a 30-hour period. I liked the female lead. I think she was a strong character. She definitely was the star of the show. And Recess, you're gonna knock my books over. Anyway, it was really good. And for her being the first time I've ever heard of her, the first time I have ever read her, awesome. Another 5-star read for me was Sky Without Stars by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell. And I love this book. I loved the world building. I loved the dystopian aspect of it. I'm a big dystopian person. So I read a lot and watch a lot of dystopian type movies, books, TV series, things like that. Like an alternate world, like what would happen if, or blah, 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 if something, if we had a natural disaster and half the population died, what would happen? Or, zombies, why not? I like me some zombies. But anyway, Sky Without Stars, I immersed myself into the whole world. It was definitely dystopian perfection in my eyes, and I cannot wait to read the second book, which is coming out in March of next year. Okay, and the next 5-star read was One Dark Throne by Kendar Blake. I haven't finished the series, but this book was so good, and it was such a quick read. Book 1 was slow, but again, when you're writing a series, sometimes the first book is a bit slow because you have to learn the world, you have to learn the characters. But One Dark Throne just jumped right in and took off. I liked the whole book. I liked the premise behind it. The writing is still choppy. The writing isn't the best, but the world building is pretty good. So I can't complain. And anyway, I just really liked it because it's something totally different than a lot of the tropes that I typically read. And so, yeah, I fell in love with it right away. And my next 5-star, or I should say my last 5-star read, was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This was my 5-star read. I did not give The Wicked King or The Cruel Prince 5 stars, but this one I did. And the reason why is because I felt like the ending was perfect. I think it stayed pretty true to the whole series. The only real complaint I have is that I wish that she would have added an extra, just a little bit more in there. And, the end was like, boom, 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 we're leading up, and then the end happened. I wanted there to be just like a tad bit more in there. Um, when things started settling down and Jude and Carden finally ended up, spoiler if you haven't read it, but Jude and Carden finally end up like admitting their feelings and like actually being together. It was just almost like it didn't build up, and that I was missing. But again, I really liked the way it ended, so I'm good with that. Okay, and then I have two books that I would like to put in for like honorable mentions. I mean, I actually have a lot more, but I chose these two books because these two are two of my kind of favorite books. Oh, shoot. Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And I read this book super fast. So I would like to reread it again, maybe in 2021. I have a huge reading year planned next year. Like, keep following me because I'm going to be reading, huge for me. I mean, say I'm seeing some of these people on Bookstagram that all have read like 130 books. I'm like, hello. I don't think I could read that much even if I didn't work. That's just a lot. But anyway, for me, it's going to be a huge reading year, and I'm planning on reading a lot of older series, because I have most of the books. They're all out, and I'm just going to plug them out one by one, plus try to keep up with a few series that I started this year. So anyway, enough about that. But Sorcery of Thorns had a Harry Potter vibe. I loved the book. I liked how the books are alive. And I really liked the chemistry between the demon Butler and Elizabeth, the main character. I just loved it, and it kind of reminded me of the Butler and the main character in A Curse So Dark and Lonely. They had a really good vibe and relationship. But anyway, that's it. And then the last one that I gave an honorable mention to is House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. And, I didn't know what to expect when I was reading this book, but I absolutely, I thought it was an interesting story. I liked the magic and the villains and the illusions. It was mind-bending. I didn't know what was going on. There was a few moments during the book where I was like, what did I miss? Because wait a minute, what the hell just happened here? Sorry for my language, but I'm like, whoa. Anyway, it ends really good. I think the only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because there's like a section toward the end where it's really pretty graphic. And it wasn't done super, like, the whole book like builds you up, but it was graphic, and that's fine with me. I don't mind like graphic, but for the story itself, it was too graphic. Like there was too much, and we didn't necessarily need that. And it was kind of like a death scene. Anyway, so books that I didn't get to this year, but I am definitely, they're at the top of my TBR for next year. And the first book is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. As you can see, I have the rest of them there to read. But I'm hearing so many amazing things about this book, and I wanted to start it this year, but unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to. And the next one is Gideon the Ninth by Tasmin Moore. I wanted to start this like the minute I got it in my book box, like absolutely the minute. But sometimes you need a little break. I had to read a couple of cheesy romantic comedies and I had to reread a couple of books that were easy to read, because sometimes books like these with the world building, you need a break. You just need a break. And then the next book is, if you can see my dust jacket there, I have a special edition dust jacket on it from Beacon Box. But what it actually is Caravel by Stephanie Garber. And I have all 3 of them as well. Again, that's definitely going to be one of my, like, I am going to read this sucker. Probably one of the first, this and Scythe are probably going to be the two first books that I pick up. And then the next book, because who doesn't like a book like this? And Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I have them all. And I would like to add that I did read up until page 106, and I absolutely loved it and was a 100% fully immersed. However, this book here is probably one of the absolute most world building books that I have read ever in my entire life. And I was really struggling at that time reading, so I had to stop reading it. I needed a break from reading, if that makes sense. I needed a break from world building reading, and so I needed to read some books where they were just set in the real world, like nothing was different. But I would just like to say I absolutely loved what I have already read of Nevernight, and I absolutely plan on, as soon as I graduate in March, this is going to be one of the first books series I read, because it was so good and I really loved the world building, and I was following it a little bit better than Illuminae. We'll see. And then a couple of books that I wouldn't say like I DNF'd them, because I am going to potentially go back and read them, but I just wasn't feeling a connection. And one of those was The Merciful Crow. One of them was Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. Oh, I'm sorry. The Merciful Crow is by, I think, Margaret Owen. Turn of the Key is by Ruth Ware. And oh my goodness, there was another book that I started We Hunt the Flame. And so those, and then I also started Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo, and all four of those books I kind of put down. As far as Lee Bardugo goes, what I did was I ended up buying Shadow and Bone to start the Grisha, universe. So I'm going to read those first, and then jump into the Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, King of Scars. Yeah. I've been told, and I've also read that I definitely want to try to start with the Storm, or Shadow and Bone, because it gets you prepared for the Grisha universe. And one more book series that I absolutely forgot to mention is A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. That is something that I would like to jump into. I don't have a picture of it, but I have them all. I have all four of the books for that series on ebook. I bought them on Black Friday, or whatever you want to call it. And of course, last but not least, I cannot wait to read the Hunger Games prequel by Suzanne Collins. So I will likely read the Hunger Games from beginning to end one more time before the sequel. Anyhow, Tiffany signing off. Like, subscribe. Sorry it was so long. If you made it, give me a thumbs up. Share, type me up some of your favorite, books that you've read. Some that you didn't maybe like so much. Some that you wish you would have read but you hadn't. You can also, my Instagram handle is Malibu3501, and I will put it in the description box. Hit me up on there. I love to talk about books. Love. And I'm extremely new to this whole YouTube, Instagram, bookish thing, because I've been in school for so long, that I just, I really want to talk to people about books. So anyway, signing off. Thank you.